Hello, my name's Angel.
My name's Nat.
And we're Animeniacs.
So today's episode we're going to be covering the backstory and the history of Neon Genesis Evangelion.
And everything about the creator and the community that watches Neon Genesis Evangelion, basically.
Okay. So first we're going to start with the opening and the closing. In Netflix's adaptation, they were able to keep the original song. So the
original opening.
Yeah. But the closing was completely different. They used like a really shitty like piano version.
Yeah, it was the version was before we continue, let it be known I watched the anime elsewhere and she watched it on Netflix.
I watched it on Netflix, yeah. It was two completely different perspectives really on Neon Genesis, because Netflix didn't just stop there. They changed a lot. They completely scrapped the original dubbing and they redid the dub themselves.
But we'll talk more about that later. But for right now, we're talking about opening and closing. So opening stayed the same between all versions of Evangelion. Closings were different. And the Netflix version, as Nat said, the Netflix version had essentially just a piano cover. It was just the piano in the background and nothing happened. If you watched Evangelion elsewhere or like saw the original content, Evangelion's actual ending was Fly Me to the Moon, and it was always a different cover every 2 episodes. Every episode the cover changed, whether it be the singer or the actual music behind it. Some would be with strings and some would be without strings. The singer would change. Sometimes it would be a jazz electric mix. The ending was always different between all closings in all 26 episodes.
And that really does affect your viewing of the episode as a whole. I didn't understand like the impact it would have until I actually watched the closings separately, like the not Netflix ones on YouTube, and I realized just how much it can affect your overall viewing of the show. So
yeah, like for all anime, opening and closing is extremely important.
Yeah.
Opening is like setting up the anime and giving you essentially like a synopsis of the whole anime without giving away anything, which is beautiful. And it gets you intrigued and engaged in the anime. And then the closing is just a nice little like bow tie on top to like kind of get you all like situated and be like, okay, that was really good and I can relax a little bit before I continue to the next episode.
Especially with a show like as nitpicky about everything as Neon Genesis, the closing really does have a major impact on your overall viewing of the show.
It changes because of the fact that the closing changes every time. It changes your emotional state at the end of the episode. Like it'll either support like what happened throughout the episode and either make you happy or sad or angry or depressed or however the episode was making you feel at the time, and the closing song just adds to it. Like when it was the electric version, that's a bop, dude. I was like in my head, I was like ooh, ooh, and then you had like the one version that had, I think, like it was really slow, and the singer like really drew out the notes, and it was just very relaxing. So like opening and closing to all anime is extremely important, and especially Neon Genesis. It's kind of ridiculous, to be honest.
Yeah, what Netflix's defense was that they weren't able to get the rights to Fly Me to the Moon. But
which makes sense, but
yeah, however, they were able to fork out $100 million for Friends, and they weren't able to fork over the money necessary to get Fly Me to the Moon. So there's like a lot to like weigh in terms of that as well. So, okay, so let's talk about the anime at the time.
All right,
so Neon Genesis.
Anime at the time, animes that like really contributed to Neon Genesis's success or like to its inspirations were animes like Devilman, Gun Blaster, a bunch of Gundam anime at the time, because that was what was really popular. It was mostly Gundam anime and like action and shonen, and it was very basic. You also had a lot of like very kiddie anime like Doraemon. Like all these shows were very like, they were like meant for kids essentially. Like there wasn't a lot of adult anime at the time. People were very like, communities were very separated. Adults were adults and kids were kids, and they each had their own thing.
Not only that, you were getting a lot of anime at the time that was based off like manga. You were getting a lot of like original concepts being put out into anime.
Yeah.
And that changed a lot after Neon Genesis came out. You saw a lot more original anime and concepts coming out.
And even more mangakas turning their mangas into animes. And like it just essentially, this anime revolutionized the anime industry.
Platform. Yeah.
Yeah. It completely changed how people view anime and how people interacted with anime. It's kind of like cartoons right here in the West, right? So cartoons are very situated for kids for the most part. And then when Family Guy came out, or like The Simpsons, I think it was The Simpsons, right?
It was The Simpsons, and then you saw like obviously the formula of like Family Guy.
Yeah, so when The Simpsons came out, it became more adulterated. And well, yeah, cartoons today still here are very left and right. Anime can be seen by both parties and be like enjoyed by both parties. So that's like the best part, in my opinion.
To further kind of go more into the deconstruction Neon Genesis was going for, in the opening itself, it's a completely different, for a mech anime, the opening is completely different than any other mech animes at the time. And that already showed just how different it was planning on being.
Yeah, it was very cinematic and very like serious and actiony, but the anime itself was very like dark and very like yeah, it had action, but it was very more psychological than anything else.
Because all the mechs at the time, a big part of them was like branding for like kids' toys. And don't get me wrong, Neon Genesis obviously makes so much money off merchandise. Their goal primarily wasn't to sell toys like the other mechs were at the time.
Yeah, right. So the creator Hideaki Anno. Yeah, the creator Hideaki Anno. The creator of Evangelion is Hideaki Anno, and he was a very during the time of creating Evangelion, he was in a depressed state. He found out that he was clinically depressed, basically. A lot of things happened for him in his life, which we'll talk about later. But we just want to reiterate that during the time he had mental illnesses, he was not in a good spot in his life, and Evangelion was like his outlet to release all this stress and essentially emotional intake. Just release it all and like try his best to like feel better, if that makes sense. While making Evangelion, he had a very unique view on the anime fans at the time, because for the most part, people who watched anime were otakus. Otakus are people otakus needs, they're Japanese shut-ins, basically. They're people who will lock themselves in their room and only watch anime or play video games and won't like ever interact with society.
The creator himself was an otaku.
The creator himself was,
or at least he was.
He was like he wasn't an otaku, but he was an anime fan.
And he was a part of the culture.
And he was a part of the culture at the beginning, but he wasn't like at the extreme that some like otakus were, where they would shut themselves in. He wasn't necessarily like a shut-in. Like he wasn't a shut-in.
But he did understand like where that could come from and how you could fall into that, which is kind of like the bigger message of Neon Genesis that we'll talk more about later.
Yeah.
But that's essentially where that was coming from.
We also have like Neon Genesis Evangelion essentially is an anime that's just a huge satire / critique on that culture. It's a huge like it's almost like a fuck you guys kind of thing, if that like makes any sense. He's like literally says, you guys watch my anime, fuck you guys. That's essentially what he does when he created this anime, and he talks about it a lot during interviews and stuff, and we'll link all the articles that we read and anything else, and you can honestly look it all up yourself.
But a lot of that comes out more towards like in the ending. You really see that massive like middle finger to the fans, and that's why a lot of fans don't really enjoy the ending, because that's what it feels like. Yeah,
it's also why a lot of fans don't appreciate a lot of the characters that are in the anime, like Shinji. People call Shinji a bitch and that he's a shitty character, but it made sense for his character to be that way. And like, yeah, he's a bitch. He's still a good character because he had a good character development and he kind of like grows as a person, but stays like that coward. Which,
yeah. The thing is, nobody likes to look at themselves, and that's what the creator's real intention was. It was to make you look at yourself in a way you really didn't want to. And that really does show throughout the show. And as far as Shinji goes, I think he was a great character.
Yeah, he's a good character.
He was a really great character. And we'll talk more about like character development later. But that was really the intention of Ano. It was to make everyone take like a good hard look at themselves and evaluate like, is this really the life you want to be living? So.
Next we have history. We want to talk a little bit about the history of Hideki, basically, or Hideaki, or whatever his.
Did you just call him Deku?
Hideki. I don't.
Just say Ano.
Ano. Yeah, his name's Ano. So we want to talk a little bit about Ano's history in anime. He graduated college and was super excited, and he got essentially together with a bunch of people who loved anime, and they created a production company, or they created an anime studio, and then he joined a production company to help make his anime. And he created, I want to say, what was it, like 4 or 5 anime before he created Evangelion?
He created a few different animes before Evangelion, and he even made like a whole like fan movie. I think it was for Ultraman, and you could find it somewhere on YouTube if you're interested in it. But like this was really like large passion projects for them.
Yeah, they were all very passionate about their work. But Ano eventually like moved on to bigger and greater things. Like Nat said, he made a movie. He did a bunch of stuff. He essentially went and studio hopped to I think 1 or 2 other studios,
and then settled. And then
eventually came back to the original studio and settled there. But during that studio hopping, it was a lot of work for him. It wasn't easy at the time. At the time, the industry was not very popular. There wasn't a lot of money in the industry. Things were really like kind of shifting in and out of like, I don't know, like it was just very
anime.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you look at anime today, like
it's
the
popularized.
The artists don't get paid well, but like people recognize and appreciate anime for what it is.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it in terms of the 80s and stuff like that, it's nowhere near the same level of like love and appreciation that it gets.
Yeah, like specifically today, it's like modernized. It's essentially industrialized. There's like every season, there's a bunch of anime that come out. Some are hits, some are misses. Back in this time, there were very few anime, and all of them had to be hits. If they weren't hits, they weren't getting produced. Yeah, they were scrapped. So he ended up going to, like I said, Ano went to like 2 different studios, came back to his original studio, and after all this time of creating these animes and producing them and being the director for all of them, he was like, okay, I'm like so tired and I need to like take a break. In fact, before his the anime before Evangelion, during episode 16 of that anime, I think halfway through the production of that anime, he completely gave up. Like he didn't go to work for 4 episodes of that anime's creation.
He pieced out in the middle of it because he mentally just was not like available.
He wasn't stable enough to do it. He just wasn't ready. And after that anime finished its production and it was completely finished, he took a 4-year hiatus.
Which, if you've seen Neon Genesis, it's the number 4 is kind of spread throughout. Especially like with Shinji himself, he hadn't seen his father for 4 years. He hadn't seen his father for 4 years, which you can call back to the creator himself piecing out for 4 years.
Yeah. The anime itself is very complex, and it really represents it depicts like how Ano like was during his life. He was very like excited at the beginning, and then like as time happened, he just kind of pieced out and then came back, and he just wanted to like let it all out.
So then we come. So also during the period of the creation of Neon Genesis, they weren't making episodes, like they made the scripts for every episode and then they went into animation and all that stuff. It was going episode by episode. So as the show was being created, so was the script. So it wasn't like everything was just changing as it went on. And during production was the sarin gas attacks. It was a huge terrorist attack that happened in 1995. And in the process, there were some episodes that were similar to that real life attack, and they had to completely scrap them. So now we're working with a creator who isn't really mentally stable for the most part because of his depression. And then we have to scrap a few episodes because of a terrorist attack.
And all that is wasted money, basically. They made the episodes, they got scrapped because they couldn't use them anymore, and they had to make completely new episodes. They just lost money just for those episodes. And trust me, animation is not cheap. I think I saw an article the other day that said like 3D animation is like hundreds of thousands of dollars, almost hitting millions, and just 2D basic animation that's like pan, like it's just picture. That's also about $200,000 or some ridiculous number like that. And imagine at the time, like obviously it would be cheaper, but it really wasn't cheaper.
Because you had those people hand drawing all those cells. So, and you have to pay those people. But wasn't there a point in the studio's history where he was like, guys, you might not be able to get paid?
I believe there was.
Yeah. There was a period where they weren't really being able to get paid, and it was described as being like hell on earth, essentially. Yeah. Having to work there.
So it was a very hard time for him, and the history behind this anime is like very intense. And like I said earlier, we're gonna put articles and all our sources for this information in the description, I guess. And you guys can read it yourselves, and you can see like the whole story for the most part.
Half the fun is looking up the information like yourself and like seeing what we see. We're just here to share that information with you guys. Next we have like the limitations of the anime. The anime itself was extremely limited. It not only was it like, so at the beginning of the history of the studio, it was flourishing. Like everything was brand new, everything was great. And then as time went on, they were losing money. They had just finished essentially a movie before they started Evangelion, and that movie didn't do horrible, but it didn't do stellar.
Amazing, right? So they were losing a lot of money. They didn't have a lot to go on. And by episode 14 of Evangelion, they
just stop what you're saying. Just get going.
Let me just put it on silent for a second.
It's fine.
Alright. I should have done that earlier. I apologize.
It's fine.
Alright.
My phone's not even on silent either, so I just got lucky. Okay, so go back to talking about money and stuff like that. So,
Evangelion itself was already limited by the amount of funding it had. Before Evangelion, they had done a movie, and the movie didn't do horrible, but it also didn't do
stellar.
Amazing. So they already were starting off with
a
low
limited
funds,
budget.
Very limited budget. And mind you, the anime is 26 episodes long, and by episode 14,
they were pressed for cash.
Yeah, they were basically done. They used the whole budget that they had proposed out by episode 14.
And at that point you see a lot of repeated frames, and one of the most iconic scenes of the show that really exemplify how pressed they were for cash and for time is the elevator scene. It's 53 seconds
of just them sitting in an elevator.
Yeah,
no talking.
Occasionally you'll see somebody's nose twitch, but that's the max you'll see, and it really
and you'll see like shadows, and that's about it.
That really exemplifies like how pressed they were for everything.
That's a whole minute of animation on just standstill.
It's 53 seconds. It's not a whole minute.
It's basically a minute.
Basically a minute. But also, to be fair, if you see in the Rebuild series, they still kept it really long. It was 27 seconds. So because there was intention.
There was, but I think it was just kept in the Rebuild series because it was so iconic. And it also, that scene itself also portrayed a message, and I don't even think Ano like wanted that message to be portrayed at the time. And after seeing it and being basically rewatching his own creation and being like, wow, that's a really good scene. I should keep that it. Awkwardness. It really exemplifies Shinji's awkwardness in that, and like as a character.
No, like obviously it does work out well, but as a viewer who's watching it, you see the same painted frames for 53 seconds. You're like, what is going on? And so the elevator scene really does show like their struggle with like money and like time. Also, like we did mention earlier, the sarin gas attacks that really did affect what they did for the sarin gas attacks really did affect what they did in the later episodes, since they did have to scrap and blow through that money and even more press their time. And then as far as scheduling goes,
scheduling was like a limitation, because what happened was Rocky, wow, wrong creator. Ano created the anime for kids to help them, as it was basically meant as a coming of age story for kids. It was supposed to show kids that the world can be hard and tough, and you just have to tough it out sometimes. And
to be fair, it did show that.
Yeah. But it was a very adult-rated show. I think like by episode, what was it, 4 or 5, you already are seeing Rei naked or something.
I think it was an early episode. You see nudity, kind of.
No, you see it. He comes out of the shower.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see nudity.
So, like, it was meant for kids, but it was a very like more like a teenager or like young adult, like a very young adult show.
Yeah, and they had that early time slot meant for kids. But because of all these more like young adult themes, it had to be pushed into like a later time slot, correct?
Yeah, so what happened was essentially the production company was like, wait a second, hold the phone. You're telling me there's nudity in this show? Yeah, that's a no. And they were like, okay, push it back to a later time slot so that way kids don't see it. Mm-hmm. And like already the targeted audience that Anna wanted to give the anime and reach to was being like pushed away. And they were being changed because of the time slot. Mm-hmm. And they essentially changed their audience from kids and young adults to adults. Mm-hmm. And some young adults, I guess, because if a kid decides to stay up late and watch it, like, yeah, right? But essentially, the time slot was meant for a more grown-up audience, which, as we had mentioned earlier, was not really known for the anime. Most anime was meant for kids, so that was already a big change. You had shows like Doraemon, Sailor Moon, like all these shows that are pretty much meant for kids. They're very PG shows, right? Mm-hmm. Let's see. Again, the audience completely changed. Another limitation, the fact that they had to cater from kids to like adults was a complete like 180 for them. They had to completely change up what was happening. And then the ending. Oh, this is, every time I talk to someone about it at like a convention or something, it's always like, I love the ending. I think the ending is beautiful, and so does Ano. Ano loves his ending. He thinks that the ending that he did for the show was perfect. However, you have to recognize that it does show all these limitations that we discussed earlier. But you can the last 2 episodes do show the limitations, because they couldn't do like the full fight scene that was supposed to happen. Like they built up to this huge fight scene, and then there was no fight scene. It was just Shinji having an inner monologue with himself on a black screen. But that when you see that ending paired with the end of Evangelion, it does make sense and it is beautiful. However, imagine being an audience member at the time and you don't really understand all the limitations going on, and you see that ending, you're just like, what the fuck? Yeah. What did I sit here and go through all this for? Yeah, and especially during the time of its release, where it took a little while before they got the funding for the movie End of Evangelion. So because they didn't have like that actual ending, a lot of the fans were very angry. They were not happy, to say the least. Yeah. They were pretty much infuriated that they didn't get like an actual ending to the show, and they got like this cut off of inner monologue as an ending, and it all ends with, it literally ends like, good job, you did it, you figured it out, woo, right? Yeah.
When I remember first watching that and just sitting there like, wait, what did I?
All right, so anime at the time, or sorry, let's redo that. Okay, so
Neon Evangelion basically caused a second impact in anime.
Yeah,
essentially.
That's a good one.
I mean, but like honestly, that's what happened, because after Neon Genesis, that's when you saw more original anime, and that's when everything kind of sort of changed. Like, for example, like one of my favorites, like Cowboy Bebop. I don't think that would have been possible if not for Neon Genesis.
Because Cowboy Bebop's a lot more young adult than anything. Like, again, during the time, anime was meant for kids. It didn't really reach out to an adult audience. Evangelion changed that.
And even like in the anime that was still going on at the time, you still saw more like adult like themes going on after. Like in Sailor Moon, the last like 2 seasons of the original runtime are more adult oriented, and that probably also has to do with the fact that Neon Genesis creator Ano is friends with like the people that worked for Sailor Moon. Yeah. But like you really saw a distinct change after Neon Genesis came out. Yeah, like if it wasn't for Evangelion, we literally would not have any of the animes that we have today, like No Game No Life, Code Geass. That would not have been possible. FMA Brotherhood. You wouldn't even have your basic shonens like Naruto, Dragon Ball. Like Dragon Ball was going on before. No. This came out positive. I'm pretty sure. Okay. Or Dragon Ball, the original series, but Dragon Ball Z. You wouldn't have, like, Dragon Ball probably wouldn't have been as popular if it wasn't for Evangelion. Like, Evangelion revolutionized the anime industry. It took what was once meant for kids and gave it, like, it became an outlet for not just, like, basic kid shows, but for more adult shows with deeper meanings and deeper understandings to the anime. Yeah. And can be a way to portray messages, kind of like literature. Like, there's kid books, and then you have literature, which is meant for adults to give a message. That's what Evangelion did, and to this day, I stand by the point that Evangelion is basically literature. There's so many underlying features and key details and, like, messages that the anime gives the audience that the audience can take in any direction they want. It's such a beautiful anime. You could take that into an AP literature class and dissect it and write a beautiful analysis on it through so many different lenses, through either like religious lenses or like even like psychodynamic lenses. Like, it's an anime that has really changed the way we look at the modern scope of like television in general. Like yeah, it really does. Like, I forgot. I think it's Overwatch. I don't know anything about Overwatch, but isn't the character Diva supposed to be in reference to the Evas or something like that? Somebody told me that, and I was like, I believe it. I could believe that too. Yeah. I never thought of it like that, to be honest. All I know is that Diva's a gamer girl, and there's a mech somewhere in there though. No, yeah, she's a mech. Yeah, she's a gamer girl who drives a mech for Korea. And we love that. Yeah. Like, we stand, but also, like... It could be a reference to Ava's, though, and that makes sense. Now that you think of it, huh? Yeah, now that you think of it. But that just goes to show, like, everything that Neon Genesis has been able to do. Not only that, it's been able to stay consistently an iconic anime. Like, to this day, for how old it is exactly? 1995, that's 25? About 25 years? Maybe, yeah. Because I'm 20 and I was born in yeah. So like 20. Yeah, 25 so years. It's about 25 years old, and we're still talking about it today. It's still an anime that to this day the whole community regards as beautiful and wonderful, and it's like a must watch. It's a chef's kiss. Yeah, you have to watch this anime to like fully appreciate it. And obviously some people have it for different reasons. But the important thing is that it's still a very popular anime, and it's still getting the recognition it deserves. And all the merchandise also still continues to be like, yeah, very good sellers. So you go to conventions today, and you always see Evangelion cosplayers. Always.
It's ridiculous.
It's been able to be consistently popular, and it's still, when people talk about the change in anime, they always go back to Neon Genesis because that's where it really started.
Yeah, Neon Genesis, I would say, was like the first anime to start the golden age of anime, that whole 90s anime era where all anime was essentially beautiful and wonderful, and you can't really, there's not really a bad one that you can talk about because most of them are like fantastic.
And there was a lot more newer ones coming out because before everyone was, not that they were scared to put out more anime, but it wasn't as easy as it was after Neon Genesis.
And then like you have the overall message to the viewers from Evangelion, which is, again, can be taken in different standpoints. In my personal opinion, it's a way to fight through depression. I can see that being a very big point on it, or like to not just, another thing, like to not just go with the flow. Always be your own person and fight through what you believe in.
Yeah. No, yeah, the message of the show still also continues to be very prevalent.
People are always talking about how they see the show in different manners. I've already got like, in my head, just thinking about it, I've got like 5 different messages that I can share.
And I think that was the point. And he wanted you to like find your own.
Yeah,
like,
in an interview, he talked about how he wanted people to not have the exact answers to everything and to always find an answer themselves. He wanted people to think on their own and have their own like message to help them, or to like show them what they like, what the world is. Like everything, it was all meant for the viewer. All of this was made for the viewer.
So no matter how hard that middle finger was at the end, we are still suckers for this. So to watch the show, we always recommend that you try to find a good outlet for all of the shows we're going to be discussing. For Neon Genesis in particular, the best way to watch it in the United States is on via Netflix, or if you would like to fork over a few bucks, you could try and find a good Blu-ray version.
Yeah.
We definitely don't recommend, what is it we don't recommend?
We don't recommend any illegal anime sites, specifically because like if you use an illegal anime site, you're not giving back to the production company and essentially to the anime industry. If we don't give money to the anime industry either through Netflix, Crunchyroll, Funimation, or any other anime website where you can watch anime, if you don't give money to them, they don't give money to the anime like production companies, and then those production companies don't make anime, and then they never come to the West, and then we're like anime-less.
Screwed.
So we don't want to like try to avoid as best as you can illegal anime sites, like anime sites like Anime Take, Anime Heaven, and all these other anime sites, Kiss Anime. You don't want to, like, they're all sites that are not going to give back because you're essentially watching them for free.
Not only that, like, the way the creators of anime, like, the people who actually do the drawings and stuff, they don't make money, like, on a salary basis. They make money per drawings.
Yeah.
And, like,
it's hard.
I don't know how long you guys think it takes to make one drawing, but it takes a minute.
You guys can actually look it up. It is like mangakas and artists in Japan. Like Japanese people themselves are very like work based. Like they're always working. Like they never
professionals.
Really, they never really like take a break. And when you see a true mangaka working on his panels for his or her panels, they're going crazy. There are some times where people don't like stop doing their job for days.
So if you guys could find a way to be able to give back to the community, that actually would really help.
Yeah,
like,
it supports the whole community.
Era. Yeah,
and it'll just help popularize anime in the West, because all we want to do is popularize anime and like be able to have another form of discussion. It's, in my opinion, anime is like one of my favorite things. And I would love it if more people watched it and it got more recognition for what it deserves.
But, like, in order to do that, what makes the world go round is money. So we need to make sure that everyone's, like, getting paid.
So you guys just need to go and, like, definitely go watch on Netflix, Crunchyroll, Funimation, or any other website where you have to pay. Get the Blu-ray version. Blu-ray videos are good.
Also, we're not being sponsored by anyone, but like if you want to, that'd be really awesome. Okay. Yeah. So what is it?
And then last thing before we go, we do know this is a new podcast. Again, we're Animeniacs, and I know, right? What a great name.
What a great name. Thank you, Reddit users.
So we wanted to just let you guys know what this podcast is going to be about and what our goal is here. So specifically for Evangelion and other animes that we
feel need to be a little bit more in depth and have bigger impacts,
because we like either appreciate the anime more, or we think it has a deeper meaning, or it does something so spectacular that it's like different from like your regular run-of-the-mill animes that you see on a season-to-season basis.
We'll be doing two episodes for that, and
the first episode being that, like this one, it'll be more background information on like the creator and background information on the anime and the studio, and then like things like that. And then the second episode being
more on the characterization.
Yeah, more on the
episodes,
anime part.
Yeah. And that's not to say the episodes that we're going to be doing one-parters on aren't as special to and close to our hearts. In fact, later we're going to be doing one of my favorite animes as a one episode. It's just to say that the two-parters need a little bit more like
it's just
time.
To say that the one-parters like some are really, really good, some are amazing. They just don't need 2 episodes, or like they're not as essentially important, if that's the right word to use.
No, important is not. They're not as impactful.
Impactful.
There we go.
Impactful is a good word. They're not as impactful to like the community or to like an emotional or logical standpoint to really like go in depth with them. It's more to like just talk about the anime. Here we just strive to talk and discuss about the anime we want to hear. And we also want to hear your opinions too. Yeah,
our goal here is to make a bigger, like, better community for the anime realm, kind of. And we want to bring more discussions and in-depth, like, analysis to these animes.
And we want to another one of our goals is to bring people who don't watch anime into watching anime. Because a lot of people get turned off by the fact that it's a cartoon. But those same people are probably watching TV shows that are the exact same, structured the exact same as like an anime is, or are reading just books that are essentially the exact same as anime, right? But yeah, that's like our whole goal here. We just want to help popularize the anime industry, basically.
So if you guys want to reach out to us, we have our Gmail, which is animeniacscast@gmail.com. We have a Twitter and Instagram account. The Instagram is...
Better pull it up on our phone really quick.
I mean, I'll just like edit that out. It's fine. So our Instagram is Animeniacs Podcast, and our Twitter is AnimeniacsCast, I think, as well, right?
I think so. And then... Nice. That's pretty sick.
Thank you. Our Twitter is at AnimeniacsCast. So if you want to reach out to us there, you can. And then tell them about our Patreon.
Yeah, we're also going to have a Patreon where we're going to do special giveaways. Or not giveaways, really. We're just going to have special, what's it called? Like incentives. It'll help us, essentially all the money that we're getting from the Patreon, it'll help us have a better environment for us to work and create more podcasts for you guys and more videos and be able to talk about anime more. And it'll also be a good way to just get more equipment, because like right now we're recording on her Mac.
the little blue Yeti that I'm borrowing from my dad.
Yeah, and a camera that I have at home because I stream. But that's what we're using. So we have like a ragtag group of equipment here, but we're trying our best because we really want to bring out this content to you guys. And we want to do this
for you guys because we really do love anime and we want to spread that with other people. So if you guys could come and support us, that'd really mean a lot. Angel, where can they find you?
They could find me on Twitter for the most part. I'm not a very active social media member, but I do use Twitter now. a lot more than I used to. And my Twitter is at 100gamernerdy, I think, or at gamernerdy. Let me double check.
We're gonna have to redo that entire part.
No, just do yours while I'm getting my phone.
Okay. Well, I do have the Twitter and Instagram account. Those are the accounts I'm most on. Those are the accounts that I'm on the most. My Twitter and Instagram handles are at natjimenez16. For the most part, I just shit post, but I mean, like, if you want to go and shit post with me, that'd be awesome. So yeah, you can find me there. And Angel, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter for the most part. I'm not a very active social media member, but I do use Twitter a lot, and I am at gamer100nerdy because at nerdygamer100 was taken.
Yeah, I know. I tried to tag you in something, and then it went to the other person, and I was like, LOL, awkward.
I was so mad.
But yeah, so that's where you can reach us. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, and the next episode we'll be talking more about Evangelion's character and the actual plot of the story, and there we'll go more in depth on that area. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and hope you guys stick around.
All right. Thanks, you guys. Bye.
Bye, everyone.